At the end of the day, I think whoever gets elected, like we might have four more years of Democrat leadership. We might have 4 years of Republican leadership. And maybe depending on where you stand, that could be a good thing or a bad thing, either way. But I think personal responsibility is the most important thing here. I see way too many people putting their all into these elections, being so emotionally, mentally invested in who wins the presidency. But whether we have Republican government or Democrat government, things are still going to be difficult in certain regards. Things are still going to, some things will be easier in other regards, but you make your life what you want to make it.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Mashpitz. Bryanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. First question is probably a broad one, but maybe an important one, is that what issue are you most concerned about right now?
I feel like there's a lot of individual ones, but I think the overarching theme is that people are just kind of sleepwalking through life.
Mm.
And what I am most passionate about is, I know it sounds kind of stereotypical now, but the wake up. I want people to wake up to freedom, personal responsibility, and that includes government, that includes feminism, that includes food and health. It kind of encompasses a big umbrella of topics. But the main thing for me is that I just want people to feel alive again. And I look around and it seems like everyone's kind of sleepwalking through life. So that's what I'm most passionate about.
How do you think that happened? How did we get to this spot where people are, sleepwalking through life? Young people younger than yourself, their number one goal is to be an influencer. Like when I was growing up, I'm 32, by the way. When I was growing up, it was like I wanted to be a fucking astronaut or Batman, like either
Yeah.
one of those two things.
So I through a lot of rock
Yeah,
stars.
rock star. Yeah, I'm glad people don't become rock stars that much because, anyways. But yeah. So why do you think that happened? Like, what's your diagnosis for that?
I think it was deliberate.
Hmm.
With the Industrial Revolution, with all of our modern conveniences, everything from microwaves to TVs to even cars. Everything is so easy now. Everything is so accessible. We get irritated when we have to wait 30 seconds for something to load on our phones. And just, I love reading. So when I read about how hard people had it in the past, how far they had to walk, I was reading a book on my ancestors and the cars that they had to drive to see their family in Iowa and Idaho and all these other states. Like, it's insane. We would never do that now. Now we think flying is too much of an inconvenience, to go see our families. And so I think that convenience has made people really soft and people have kind of checked out, like, mentally. Um, it's kind of a sad day when, most people in my generation, I'm 25, have seen every popular show on Netflix, but they can't tell you about the last book that they read or the last hard thing that they did. So I think it was deliberate, the introduction of these things. And then some of it, of course, is just natural progress. We want to make life easier for ourselves. So we invent things that do make life easier for ourselves. And I think the more that we can encourage people to do hard things, even if it's not necessary, maybe walking to the store instead of driving to the store if you can, simple things like that help humanity a lot because things are just way too comfortable and easy. And it's causing people to just check out and leave their rights to the government and let other people do their thinking for them. We're outsourcing all of our thinking.
Mm. Yeah, you can really tell why with that, like with people just don't want to go back to work or they don't want to take what they think are like, meaningless or worthless jobs. Like all of the jobs matter. Everything is like a product of how society runs smoothly. And if you think that you're going to get handouts or someone's going to just bail you out or whatever the case may be, then again, you're not going to be willing to take that job, which potentially could lead to something more, 5, 10 years down the line if you start at lower level and now you're the manager and now you're running the shop or whatever the case may be. I mean, I learned that through playing sports, which people don't seem to want to play sports as much as kids these days, which is unfortunate because I think it mirrors how life goes. You only get the things that you earn, and that's just what it is. And if you don't make the team, you don't freaking make the team. You either can stop playing or you can decide that you want to get better and try out again. And that's just how life goes. So how did you make the decision that you wanted to do hard things or overcome obstacles? Was that something that was instilled in you, or how did you develop that? Or what are some of the things that you do daily that help you keep that mindset?
Yeah, I mean, my parents raised me to be kind of an independent individual. My motto when I was a child was if you want something done, you have to do it yourself. I did a lot of reading as a kid. I just wanted to do everything on hard mode because I felt like it made me better and it made me stronger and gave me an edge over other people who weren't doing the same thing. So I grew up dancing. I danced competitively. I don't know if anyone listening has ever seen Dance Moms, but that's what I did. Absolutely loved it. um, and so my life was, being at the studio pretty much 6 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes 5 hours a night. So I loved that hard work. I loved earning something. I loved the feeling of coming home exhausted and then going to compete and coming home with, a plaque or a trophy or a whatever, rewarding my hard work and feeling like that paid off. I liked seeing myself get better and get stronger. Um, and so I don't know, I just became like addicted to doing difficult things and climbing the mountain, so to speak. And it has paid off in dividends. I was homeschooled from second grade on. So my parents taught us a lot of discipline, a lot of this is how you schedule yourself, this is how you make things happen, you be self motivated, and kind of gave us almost a college experience from a very young age. Um, Knowing that like the quality of my education was largely going to be determined by how much I put into it, how much I paid attention. Um, and so, yeah, I think it's just the way my parents raised me. I think it's partly just my mindset about things, which is probably a product of how my parents raised me. I just like doing things on hard mode, I guess.
Nice, nice. I'm gonna read you one of your own tweets, and then I want you to react to your own tweet. It
Okay.
falls pretty much in line with what you just said, but uh, I liked it. It was only from a couple days ago, but well, I'll read it back to you. You said, just so we're clear, I'm absolutely 100% fat phobic. I fear obesity with great ferocity. It's not for me. I'm good. I will not normalize it. I will not celebrate it, and I will not become it. So, what caused you to tweet that? And then we'll get into a little bit more of that.
Yeah. So the body positivity movement has gone from um, beauty in all different body types to beauty at all different sizes. And that is objectively not true. Not saying you can't be a beautiful person with a beautiful spirit and have, great things to contribute to the world. But from a physical standpoint, we know that health is the biggest marker for physical beauty. And so I think that this lie that they're telling women, and I think it's kind of malicious, I believe it's other women telling other women this because it takes them out of the marketplace. They're no longer competition, right? And so you see it a lot from women. You don't see men telling women, "Oh, beautiful at any size," and kind of pushing this obesity propaganda, I guess. It's only
Mm,
being pushed on women. We're not pushing it on men, and men are not pushing it on us. It's women pushing it on women. So I think there is an element of competition within the dating marketplace. Women were constantly competing to be more beautiful. Like it's just like intrinsically how we're wired. Um, but so it's specifically targeting women, and I like won't do it. Like I won't participate. Um, and I think you're doing people a disservice by not telling them the truth. And as someone who's been through a chronic illness, I had chronic Lyme for many years. I refuse to subject myself to practices, behaviors that could lead me down that road again in the future of having diabetes or a heart condition or an autoimmune condition. And I refuse to tell women that it's okay for them to just let their health go. I mean, men too, but men don't seem to care quite as much. To let their health go and become obese, and it's just beauty at any size. I believe in health. I believe in taking care of your body and respecting yourself enough to show up for yourself. That is like absolute bare minimum.
yeah. I think the body positivity has turned into one of those phrases that sounds really compassionate, but it's like ultimately is fucking not. Because like I do like I think originally when it started is like, yeah, we want to encourage people to appreciate their body because it does amazing things. Like all this stuff that's happening right now while I'm speaking, got no idea what's going on, but it's all working, seems to be working in alignment. But like it can't move to a place where we're making things more accessible for people who are extremely overweight. Like, I'm not making the seats on the airplane bigger because you're 350 pounds
Yeah.
when your healthy range is like 175 to like 250 and you're 100 pounds over that. Now I'm not going to make the aisles on the airplane bigger, so it's uncomfortable. Like that can't happen because we're already in a place where we're doing all this like safetyism, and everyone has to be in this like bubble, and no one can get scratched or hurt or injured. And like I understand like the idea behind it. Again, it makes sense like logically, but doesn't work with like actual human beings if you want to encourage them to flourish and be the best version of themselves. And so it's like another one of those phrases like that just like doesn't make sense in practice when you take it to the extreme, which seems to happen with all of these things. Um, and then that's a really good point you made about like the female dating market. Like other women are going to encourage you and tell you that you're beautiful no matter what, knowing that the guy that they're attracted to doesn't want the woman who doesn't take care of themselves. So she's like,
Yeah.
she's now out, and you can be really compassionate, quote unquote, to that person, and they are no threat to you. That's a really good point.
Yeah,
And
and
speaking on,
it's
go
not
ahead.
shallow. You know, it's not shallow. Like we're all biologically hardwired to pursue people who are healthy because we want to create healthy children. So you know, it's not shallow if men want, you know, a woman who is healthy, and it's not shallow if a woman wants a man who is healthy. It's just, you know, pursuing the best, you know, for your offspring. Really, at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's always that conversation about like preferences and or being like fat phobic, or like for women it usually comes across like most women want someone who's like tall and has their shit together and whatever the case may be. And then if a man says that he won't date someone who's like overweight, that's like he's now a fat phobe, he's a like, horrible
Mhm.
person, he should be,
Yeah,
thrown in jail for the way he thinks, breathes, or moves.
yeah,
And I just think there's always a weird double standard. But there's a ton of double standards that exist, and some of them are probably pretty good. Some of them don't make sense to me, but that's a whole different topic about modern dating, which we definitely can talk about. Um, and then when it comes to guys, like the most encouragement I get at the gym is from other dudes. They're like, "Bro, you look fucking sweet today. Nice fucking pump. Hell yeah." So it's so funny. I was listening to this like interview with this bodybuilder, and the interviewer asked him like, do you get a lot of female attention because you're like so jacked, you're like peak physical condition? He's like, nope. The most attention I get is from dudes because other dudes appreciate the work it takes to be fucking jacked. And I'm like, I wish like women were like that. Like I know a lot of them who are. Like my fiance goes to the gym all the time, and she has some good, workout buddies who encourage her and things like that. But some people don't, and they're like sort of mad at her for getting in great shape. And it's like,
yeah,
you can do the same thing. It takes a shitload of work, of course, like you're talking about. It's like over a 3-year span, she's decided to like really dive into this stuff. Um, but it's like it's never the journey is never going to be easy, but it's worth it for sure, I think.
yeah. If you ever look at the comment section on women's photos, it's very interesting because the women who are plus size, they get really hyped up by their friends. Oh, you're so beautiful, queen, slay, you look gorgeous, love you. And then women who are like stereotypically beautiful don't get the same attention. They receive a lot more animosity. And I don't know if you've seen, there's like a trend on TikTok, on the internet, talking about like pretty privilege.
Mm,
And girls talk about, you know, pretty girls will go on there and talk about like the downsides of pretty privilege and how their whole life they've been sort of isolated, kicked out of groups. They've had so much drama because people are, you know, jealous of them or whatever. But you kind of you see that in the comment section where women are so happy to hype up the women that they don't feel like are competition, but they don't do the same to women they do feel competitive towards.
mm, pretty privilege. Do you think that's true? Do you think that's accurate?
I do. I've seen it.
Have you
Yeah.
experienced it?
I mean, I would say yes. I feel like weird saying that, but yes. I mean, free things are given, doors are opened,
Mm,
opportunities are given because of, you know, how you look or what someone might want from you versus merit, you know. It's an interesting thing.
yeah. Yeah. I guess I was going to ask you about dating, and we sort of already talked about it, but what's dating like for young people nowadays? What's
Oh
your
boy.
experience been like? Challenging? Weird?
Yeah, I mean, on a surface level, it's men are quite feminine now and women are quite masculine. And again, I think that's by design. I think there are much smarter people than us at the top who have sort of orchestrated culture, music, pop culture, movies, television, all of this, even the introduction of women into the workforce. to the extent that it is. I don't believe that women should be restricted from working. I don't believe that women should be restricted from voting or anything like that. But I do think there's been so much pressure for women to become men. And because of that, we have women who are in fight or flight. They're in safety mode. Our nervous systems are not built to handle the workday like a man's are. Like our hormonal cycle is not built to do the 9 to 5 like a man's is. And so we have all these women in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, we become very controlling. We become dominant because nothing around us feels safe. And having that control over our partner or our job and our life, it's how we like cling on to safety. So I'm seeing a lot of women not being dominating and controlling because they want to be or because they enjoy it, but because they feel like they have to be. They're scared. Their nervous systems are really upset. And so then we have men responding by being feminine. Oh, well, if she's going to pay the bills, then I'm not going to pay the bills. If she's going to, they want equality, well, then she can pick up the tab for dinner. She can open her own door because I'm going to be accused of harassment if I open the door for her. And so the dynamics are all out of balance. And we really see it in the dating market. A few years ago, I went out with a guy who asked me for gas money after our date, a date that he asked me on, mind you.
Oh,
And he
that's
picked
so
the
bad.
date. And he didn't just ask me for like $15. He asked me to fill up his gas tank. And I laughed and was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. And he told me I was sexist for that, that he had paid for the date, so I should pay for the gas. So and he was supposedly a Republican. So these are the men who claim to be, masculine and alpha and stuff. So we're seeing a lot of that in the dating marketplace these days.
Yeah, so challenging to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I can say at least from a young boy's perspective, the messaging they hear is quite like debilitating.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're a young man, let's say 13 to 18, and you're on social media and you're watching all these things happen, and every sort of message is like, men have been aggressive and oppressive and they've done raping and wars and it's all their fault. You're like, holy shit, that's me. What am I supposed to do? I can't now become this man that I know that I can be as a leader or father or whatever. I need to just like move to the side. I need to step in the shadows. I need to be away so like women can like, you know, find their place on the hierarchy and take over and then all this stuff, whatever it is. And, maybe that has some partial truth to it. Obviously, men have done some horrible stuff throughout history. Of course, it's well documented, but like not all men are bad. I know plenty of men who do great things and are role models and mentors and all those sorts of things. And so the messaging then is there. And then when we get to become adults where maybe we're going out into the dating market and we're trying to talk to women, we're just like taking a back seat. They'll take control, even though if I ask them on the date, they should pay for my gas, which is fucking absurd. Wow, Jesus. Like it's embarrassing for all men out there. And anyway, so that sort of creates that culture that you're talking about that sort of now sort of flip the roles around, even though most women deep down want a traditional masculine men. Like, of course, there's variance, right? There's actually men who are feminine and who like it is what it is, right? And there's some women who are more masculine and like, but speaking in generalities, like people always like to talk about the exceptions, right? But generally speaking, most women like yourself, my fiance, people that I know, want a man who's masculine and has those sort of traditional values. But if they're not actually saying that and they're more switched on to like what modern feminism is telling them to be, and then the young men are trying to do what they supposed to be told they should be now that they've been bad for so long, then it's like, oh, it's all fucked. And then no one's going to find their partner and no one's going to find this long lasting relationships that sort of create the nucleus of our society and all of that. And then it becomes the situation that we're in where no one really knows what to do. Should I approach this woman at the gym? Should I talk to her at the bar? do I smile at her? Or is that creepy? Is that weird? Do I sit down next to her on the bus? Should I maybe strike up a conversation? Or do I just need to like DM her on social media because I found her through all this weird shit instead of just like talking to her in person? Like, oh my God, if I had to go through all of that shit in my head just to talk to one person, I would obviously not do it. I wouldn't even leave the house. So I understand the trepidation and the feelings there, but man, we gotta fix it and we gotta figure it out.
Yeah, and there have been actual studies on this too. They call it benevolent sexism in academia. So,
Oh.
it's interesting. So, the studies that they've conducted have shown that women who live a more traditional lifestyle and who are politically conservative are the happiest demographic of women, and that liberal women, the feminists, are the least happiest demographic. Their mental health is the worst, and they have reported the lowest amount of overall life and marriage satisfaction out of all demographics in America. So it's not working. And even the liberal feminists, these studies have shown they prefer these benevolently sexist men, i.e., men who open doors, men who view women as physically weaker and needing care and help and stuff. They are more attracted to these types of men than these soft soy boys that they claim that they want. So it's just biologically how we're wired, and it's silly to me. I don't even get mad about it anymore. It's just silly to me that we're pretending like it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But I can tell you this, there's a bright line. I'm very optimistic about everything in my life that the kids that I coach in the sports world are still doing the same shit that I was doing when we were younger, still talking about the same things. Because there's this like I played baseball, and there's like this funny joke that goes around that baseball players generally like pick up the most chicks. And it's not that we're any better than anyone else, is that we're so used to failure and rejection on the baseball field that we just take so many fucking swings with girls. I'll talk to 120 girls and one will like say, yes, I'll give you my phone number. And it seems like we have a high success rate, but really we're just taking swings. We're just taking swings. And I think that's important for young men because most of the things you do, you're going to get rejected. Like you talk to a
Yeah.
woman, she's going to reject you, but you just have to keep going out there and approaching it in a way where you still move with confidence. You learn from each encounter. You learn, like, understand like social cues and when she really wants you to walk away and she's not feeling your vibe, and when you're being a little too creepy, or when she's feeling your vibe, or when she walks a little bit closer to you, or has good eye contact, or smiles, or touches her hair, whatever the case may be. Like you only learn some of that stuff just by going out into the field and doing it. But we're just so scared nowadays to go even do it. Like we're not even getting these sort of reps in, and that could be in anything that we're talking about. But now specifically, it's sort of about dating. But dating is about reps and understanding those types of things and experiencing those first dates where you have an atrocious person ask you for fucking gas money or whatever the case may be. But
Yeah. I think
that needs to happen.
yeah, men are really, really scared of rejection these days. And I don't think they realize, like, when a woman says yes to a date, like, she's saying yes to, putting kind of her life at risk. Like, we have risks that they don't as well, and they don't really take that into account. And with the rejection thing, most women are not going to be mean to you. Like, we're going to admire your courage. We're going to be flattered that you came up to us, even if we're not into you. Maybe you're not our
Mhm.
type. Maybe we don't find you that attractive. We're going to be so flattered, and we're going to think higher of you that you had the courage to do that. And I wish men would wrap their heads around that a little more, that we want to be approached. We're not closed off, most of us. And it could come down to the simple fact that you did everything right and you are perfect and amazing and have the best personality, but we're simply not attracted to blondes or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. So I hope any men listening are encouraged to approach women because we really do appreciate it. And like you said, it builds you up.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That's amazing, right? You just gotta try it. And there's no like very, very rarely will a woman personally attack you for approaching her. Very,
Yeah.
very, very rarely. Unless you're like being really persistent. She said no a couple times. You're starting to borderline on this sort of creepy behavior. Then yeah, you gotta. You, but that's you have to learn that. And so yeah, it takes courage and bravery to do anything. And then the faster you learn that, and then you start applying for jobs, and you start doing all this stuff, and you learn that rejection is just a thing that happens in life, and I can keep moving forward because now I've built up this confidence and this anti fragility and things of that nature. So it goes hand in hand with all of this stuff. But yeah,
Absolutely.
cool modern dating. What a deal. What a deal. I'm very glad that I'm getting married next month. So
Yeah, count your blessings.
yeah, very much so. Yeah, I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world for a
Oh,
measure of things. But um, the last thing we'll touch on before I let you go is the election coming up in November. Thoughts, feelings, reactions.
yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one. We expected this year to be tumultuous, and it has delivered. Um, to be honest, I personally expected Kamala Harris to be the Democratic nominee. I expected Donald Trump to be the Republican nominee. At the end of the day, I think whoever gets elected, like we might have four more years of Democrat leadership. We might have 4 years of Republican leadership. And maybe depending on where you stand, that could be a good thing or a bad thing, either way. But I think personal responsibility is the most important thing here. I see way too many people putting their all into these elections, being so emotionally, mentally invested in who wins the presidency. But whether we have Republican government or Democrat government, things are still going to be difficult in certain regards. Things are still going to, some things will be easier in other regards, but you make your life what you want to make it. The economy might be worse, but I personally am doing better financially than I ever have before, and it's because of the choices that I've made and how I choose to conduct my life. And so I think you can make a good situation out of anything. If we're in a recession, recessions are one of the ways that people get super, super wealthy. Um, you can put yourself in a position to succeed no matter who's in office. And I wish people would spend more time on themselves personally, their health and wellness, their mental wellness. Get in the gym and train. If you are angry about the current state of things, like a lot of people are, maybe don't go, protest, because I hate to say it, but protesting doesn't accomplish much these days. Maybe go to the gym instead and get that anger out on the treadmill or something. Take personal responsibility for your finances, for your family. If you need to move somewhere else and start homesteading, do it. So I think the message that I want to send this election is not so much vote for this person, vote for that person. Of course, I'm going to advocate for the candidate that I think is best for the nation, but take personal responsibility, man. Like the hour is late. Like things aren't going to get any easier. I have a feeling this country, like, I think we're kind of off the cliff's edge already. So the more you can do to make life better for yourself, do it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that sentiment more. Because people like to put the blame of their life, their whole life, on whoever's running the country, and that person doesn't even know your first name.
Yeah.
Yes, they have power to move things in the right direction and all these sorts of things, but you have the utmost control over your little nucleus, whether that's you by yourself or you and your kids or you and your whatever it is. Your little community is so fucking important. And the more you dive into that with the utmost ownership, then you put up some of these like little barriers about what might happen in the world. Yes, it's going to affect you if the stock market goes up and down or groceries still go up or the housing market. Yeah, of course it's going to impact you. But like you're saying, what you can do is, take ownership for that and for where you want to go and try and do that regardless of, who's sitting in the White House. So I think that's a really powerful message. But who does have your support? Where are you leaning in November?
Oh, Donald Trump, 100%. Absolutely. Voted for him in the last election, supporting him again in this election. I think he's our best shot at a stable economy and personal freedom.
Yeah. And what would you say to sort of the young girls around your age who are really leaning for Kamala Harris?
What has she done for women? What has she done for anyone, really, at this point? I mean, judge her by her actions. Don't take my word for it. When she was debating in the primary, she said she believed the women who accused Joe Biden of sexual assault. She said she believed them unequivocally. And then she went to run with that man, a few months later, and has been singing his praises for the past 4 years. So for all these young women who are very, very concerned about the Me Too movement and a lot of my generation hates men. Well, what about that? She said she believed these women and then she went and ran with his accuser. We all know she got her start by having an affair with a man much, much older than her who was married at the time. He's publicly said, he's completely unashamed by the fact that he opened doors for her and kind of started her career. So is that the kind of woman that you want to have as our first female president? So I say judge her by her actions. feminism is about equality of the sexes, right? And I think it's interesting that we're not holding Kamala Harris to the same standard as we are the male candidates. That because she's a woman, because she's a minority, all of a sudden that makes her qualified to run the nation. So, and I would encourage women to also look into what Trump has done for women, because he's done quite a lot, and he has extremely vocal, proud female supporters for a reason. And he promotes women to positions of leadership and influence in a way that Kamala Harris didn't. If you look at her past, she had a 92% turnover rate with her staff. She was told staff that they weren't allowed to look her in the eye, and they had to stand and call her general when she entered the room. And to me, that sounds like a dictator. That doesn't sound like the compassionate leader that they say that they want. So I would encourage women to look at the actions of both, look at the policies of both. Right now, Kamala Harris doesn't even have policies on her websites. So we don't even know what changes she wants to implement, what her platform is, other than the fact that she ran with Joe Biden for 4 years. We don't know where she stands on anything. She didn't do much while she was vice president. She didn't even fulfill her role as border czar. So I just say judge her by her actions.
100%. Well, thank you very much for your time. Where should people go if they want more of you?
You can follow me on Instagram. That is my main platform, at Bryanna X Robinson. I am also on TikTok, though I frequently get kicked off, at Bryanna California, and Twitter at Bri Robinson.
Well, thank you very much, Bryanna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.